About all three, because as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking that for most of us, when we get aware, we actually realize we don't even want to look at our finances.
No.
Right? That's how we all feel because we're so scared and there's been such a fear built around money that it's like, I don't even want to know because I'm so scared. Now, when I get my paycheck, I'm thinking, oh God, I hope this covers my rent, my groceries, my bills, whatever else I've got to cover. And then that becomes your stress point. And then you're thinking, oh gosh, I haven't got enough to spend on this thing that I really wanted to do, or I wanted to do something for my kids or whatever it may be. So now there's stress. And so I think for most people, when you actually get awareness, you start realizing it's stress.
And it's never enough.
And it's never enough.
I'm never making enough. And also I've got $100,000 in student loan debt. I have this other credit card because I wanted to go on a trip, or I had a medical expense that would unexpected that came up. Like, so many people are struggling to be figuring out how to get out of debt. They have this weight that's carrying them back, but they still want to feel like they're free to live a life of their dreams.
Yeah.
They want to be able to go on a trip with a friend a few times a year. They want to go to those expensive concerts. They want to have fun still, but they're unfortunately in a lot of debt. So there's something that's pulling them back as they're trying to go forward. And they feel like there's no way to break free. They think about the rising costs of eggs, the inflation, how everything is just constant. You can't afford a home anymore. All these things seem impossible to break through. But people want to feel free, but they don't feel emotionally free because of all the baggage they have in their life. And that's what I want people to start to feel is, how can you feel emotionally free so that your money can come to you effortlessly? And when it leaves you, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And the more we relax, the more we can receive. And so if I'm tight and I'm always anxious, or I'm not willing to look at my bank account because I'm afraid of what's in there, how are we able to receive more and spend more freely? And I think for many years, I learned how to make money, but I didn't learn how to spend money. And so I just hoarded it because I was afraid to go back being broke on my sister's couch. I didn't want to go be broke again. So I just stashed it away into my bank account and just like, okay, I'm going to just wait for it to grow so I feel safe. But that was almost like a prison in a sense emotionally, because I didn't feel free to spend it. I was still sleeping on friends' couches. I had $1 million in the bank and I was sleeping on friends' couches. I was sitting in the middle seat, the cheapest seat I could on buses or on planes. And I'd always be like, man, I'm so uncomfortable the next day. Like my back hurts. Like I'm not feeling free because I was afraid. I was anxious to lose money. And that is not emotional freedom. That is not healing. And I remember thinking to myself, well, God, I'm starting to make money. It was like years into my business. I was like, I'm financially free, but I'm still trapped. What is holding me back? And I realized a lot of it was my money story and my money personality style that I needed to start working on. Yeah. And I don't know if it's the thing that you ever like, I've arrived and I'm perfect and now I'm like this Zen master at money. It's a constant back to awareness. Yeah. It's a constant practice of awareness and breaking through those limitations.
Yeah, I think what I'm thinking about when I'm hearing you is, if me and you went back to a place in our life where we really didn't have money.
Yes.
And you think about someone who's in that position, who's listening to us right now, and in their head, they're thinking, but how do I become abundant when I don't have? Well, like my natural thing is like, I'm just struggling to pay my next bill. And me and you have both been in those situations. Yes. I remember when I was growing up, I grew up in a house where we had just enough. Like that was the language my parents used. Yes. We have just enough. And my parents would often argue about money. I remember I wasn't allowed to buy cool shoes and stuff. I'd have like the knockoff cheapest brand from whatever, which was, I actually didn't have an issue with that. I didn't have an issue with any of it because we had food and that was my normality. But it's really interesting because the amount of times growing up, I started working when I was 14. And I think that gave me a really interesting sense of how hard it was to make money. Because I started working at 14, I used to get paid £2 per street that I delivered newspapers on.
Wow.
So imagine there's 100 houses. It's going to take me like...
Not per house.
No.
Per street.
Per street.
Oh my gosh.
So I did 5 streets. And so I'd get £10 at the end of the week if I did 5 streets. And each street would take me at least an hour, maybe, I don't know, something like that. And so I'd walk around, I'd pull this thing and I'd deliver it. And I got an understanding of how hard it was to make money. But then that became a story for me, going to your point.
Making money is hard.
Making money is hard. and that there's only a certain amount of money you're allowed to make at this level. Like you're a 14-year-old.
Yes.
Then I worked in retail. I stacked shelves at a grocery store. I worked at a store called Morrison's, which is like working at Walmart. And there I remember I got paid like £5 an hour. And then you get like time and a half if you work the weekends and the evenings. All of this to say that I probably spent my whole life only seeing zero in my bank account because everything that would come in would pay for my phone bill, my car insurance that I paid for, whatever it was that I was taking care of. So I wasn't relying on my parents, apart from I lived in their home, obviously. But I always felt like money came in, money went out. And my story around money was people who have money are doing something bad. So I lived in a home. Whenever we went to a friend's home and they had a nice home, my family would always say, oh yeah, but they do dodgy stuff to make money.
Yeah.
All the language around money was people with money are doing bad stuff. So in my head, it was like, oh, if you have money, then you must be doing shady stuff because we don't have money and we're not doing any shady stuff.
You must be hurting people to make money.
Correct. In some way, exploiting.
Taking advantage of.
Yeah, taking advantage, whatever. So everything you're saying is so true because then when I got to a point in my life where I was just trying to do good and I had something like 150, 200 million views on content.
And you had no money.
I was 4 months away from being broke.
I met you at this
time. And I met you around this time.
I met you this time, yes.
And it was really interesting to me because that was the time that I was actually doing this work, which is why this book's so powerful, because I realized that I couldn't, even with 150, 200 million views, it wasn't that made money because my story and my personality style was anxious. I felt like it was wrong to make money. Like that's actually what it was. I felt like making money was bad. And so until I got to that.
Did you believe you were worthy of making more money?
I believed I was worthy, but I believed that you had to be bad to make money.
Wow. So you didn't want to be bad. You didn't want to have a lot of money and associate, I have a lot of money and I'm bad.
Correct.
I'm bad and wrong and I'm hurting others in order to help myself.
Correct. Because good people are poor.
Wow.
Right? Like to be a good person of good character means to not have money.
Wow. And that was based on a belief system that you developed
over time that I didn't even know. Like if you would have told me about this 8 years ago, I'd have been like, I don't know, which is why I think these reflections are so important, people.
If you're stressed, if you're overwhelmed, if you're anxious, if you're constantly in drama, that is not abundance. A high net worth does not mean you are free. Money is an energy. And how we think and how we feel will dictate the energy we have towards it. When you have no money, when you're broke, when you feel stressed out, overwhelmed, burnt out, you lost your job, you feel like you need help. And you may need help. And the best way to create abundance is to go from helplessness to helpfulness.
So when you're in that place, taking your story as well, taking my story, how do we start to rewrite that story now that we're aware?
Well, it's so powerful that you said that. And I remember this vividly because I met you on Halloween 2017, right?
Yeah, 8 years ago, yeah.
And I said like, cancel the day. Let's just hang out all day.
Yeah, you had a book coming out that day.
I had a book that came out that day on Halloween, which is called The Mask of Masculinity. Anyways, how do we rewire our brain around money to create more abundance?
When you have nothing.
When you have lack. How do we rewire our brain to create abundance when you have nothing and you don't know how to earn more money? The first thing I think you need to be aware of is that your beliefs dictate your behaviors. So if you believe that money is bad or people who make a lot of money are bad and take advantage of others, and therefore me having lack right now means I'm a good person and I don't want to become a bad person, then that belief is going to dictate your behaviors and you're going to stay in lack. You're going to stay in scarcity and you're going to see opportunities that only give you just enough, as opposed to opportunities that could create incredible wealth for yourself financially, but also an emotional wealth that you've never had before. So that's one of the things you want to understand is first that your beliefs dictate your behaviors.
That's a big one, by the way. That's huge.
Yeah.
Like that, I just want to point that out for people. Like that's so huge.
True, because your belief,
it's huge.
Your belief got you to a place of, I am impacting hundreds of millions of people from these videos that I created with my talents. But I don't know how to make money with them. And I don't know if I actually should, because then I could be bad and wrong, or people could perceive me as I did something bad to make this money.
Correct.
And I'm a spiritual person. I'm a monk. I've done all these things. I don't want to have that life.
Yeah.
but I want to make an impact and I don't want to be poor.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are struggling with that mindset.
What are the other ones you hear? What are the other, focusing on that belief spirit, what are you hearing from people about their belief? That's my belief.
Yep.
And that's very much my history and story, as you said. What other stuff do you hear from people?
The biggest shift that will create abundance in your life is a mindset habit in unlocking wealth for yourself. And one of the big lies, or one of the big blocks that holds people back from financial opportunity, is that I cannot be generous with my time, my wisdom, my knowledge, or my secrets to others, because if I am, they will take it and run with it, and I will be left with nothing. So therefore, I'm going to hoard my energy, I'm going to hoard my time, my knowledge, and only keep it to me so that others don't have good ideas or have my help. And from all the different billionaires and millionaires and financial leaders in the world that I've interviewed, I know you've interviewed a lot of them, there is a question I would always ask individuals who've made incredible amounts of money, and that keeps helping them create more wealth year after year. And they all say the same thing. Those who have had a sustainably good heart in the process, is that you have to have a generous mindset. So the mindset habit is the first thing that you have to think about when creating abundance with your money, but also feeling abundant internally. And it's coming with generosity. So if you feel like you're stuck right now, if you feel like you have nothing, this was what you were at 8 years ago when I met you. This was where I was at 15 years ago when I was on my sister's couch. I had no money. I was in student loan debt. I was sleeping on her couch. I didn't think I had any skills. I didn't have a college degree yet. I was like, how am I going to make money if I don't know how to make money and I don't have any talent or skill and I'm in debt? It didn't understand it. It felt impossible. And the thing that I shifted when I started meeting money mentors is I needed to learn the first habit, which is the mindset habit, which is a habit of generosity and gratitude.
So what did that look like then? What was the practical step?
What it looks like was, how do I meet money people who have money, people who have success, people who can teach me knowledge? I needed to come with a sense of energy, of curiosity, of possibilities, and of joy. I literally wrote a list down of all these different things that I thought were my talents. I go, how can I make money? I don't have any skills. I played football and now I'm injured. What can I do for people? But I was like, well, I'm really curious. Maybe I can just ask people questions. And never did I think in a million years that I could have a 12-year-old podcast just asking questions and make millions of dollars a year. I never thought that was possible. I was in my early 20s and I was like, you know what? I've got a lot of energy. I've got a lot of passion. So let me bring passion and energy to other people and excitement. And that energy was infectious. And there's a currency that's tied to that energy of passion, joy, excitement, curiosity. That currency may not look like money, but for those who are older, who have no more passion, they're burnt out, they're exhausted, it is the highest form of currency. They want that. They crave that energy. They've burnt themselves out for decades. They want to feel young again. They want to feel curious again. They want to feel excited again. And when you come to someone with that energy, you are bringing a different mindset. So the mindset of curiosity, joy, passion, presence, like just connecting with someone and asking them a question, is such a valuable currency. So we have to look into these untapped skills, talents, currencies inside of us that are hidden to others, but inside of us, they can create magic.
Yeah.
That's one of them. Another one is just being generous with your time, with your resources, with your ideas, and helping others succeed.
I love that because I didn't even know that then, but I was doing it unconsciously.
Yes, you were.
So I really wanted to interview incredible people, but I didn't have a platform at the time when I met you. And so I'd partnered up with NASDAQ. Mm-hmm. And by the way, just to be really clear with everyone, I didn't get paid to do this.
Yes.
So NASDAQ had something where everyone was using Facebook Live. And I said, hey, could I have an hour in the NASDAQ building whenever I have an amazing guest that says yes, so that I can interview them on NASDAQ Live, and they would put the picture up on the middle of Times Square.
On a billboard.
So now I could reach out to people I looked up to.
And that's the reason why I went on the show.
Exactly.
So I didn't know who you were until I saw, hey, I can get you on a billboard on Times Square. I go, that's value to me right now.
I'm being generous and I'm trying to find a way because I don't have anything to offer.
Nothing to offer.
But I admire you. And it was all people I admired. It was yourself. It was Ryan Holiday said yes. Me and Ryan had met maybe once before that, but Ryan came on that show. And there were a bunch of other authors.